Let's call these motherfuckers up right the fuck now and see what the fuck is going on in their world, man. Hello, is this Pulchra Morte?
Yeah, Pulchra Morte. This is Clayton.
Morte. I was wondering about that, man. I was wondering if I was fucking up the name, dude.
Ah, you were close. That was great. I love that we're following Jim Florentine. That's probably the only time that'll ever happen.
Hell yeah, dude. So tell us, man, what the fuck is going on in the world of Pulchra Morte?
Yeah. We were just at yeah, that's probably more accurate. But we were just at the studio writing, rehearsing, recording some stuff a couple weeks ago. It was great.
Hell yeah, man. So tell us, as far as the band, how long have you guys been doing this, and how exactly did you get started?
Well, we started really in 2017. I had been talking with Jason Barron, who was a guy that I played with in Harkonnen for several years in the early 2000s, late 2000s, and we were just talking about kind of that era of music, like where Gothic and those first couple My Dying Bride records were coming out, and that kind of style of music just kind of came and went, and we should do something about that. So Jason found this other guy, Jeff Bredden, and he's a guitar wizard. He sent me a couple demos, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's do this. And then fast forward a year, and we were talking with Jarrett, who I've known for 30 years, about maybe laying down some bass on a demo for us. And Jarrett, why don't you take it?
Well, I heard the songs, and I mean, I make records for a living. I mean, that's what I do. Go to 1349, Gruesome, Exhumed, on. And I heard the songs, and I was like, wow, I really like these songs. I like the material. It's well written. It's not relying on tricks or on speed or technicality. Like, these are actually good songs, in my opinion, of course, only my opinion. And I said, well, I'd actually kind of like to be a part of this, because I learned all the songs and I played the bass on the demos. And then I called Clay and I said, hey, why are you making a demo? Like, why don't you just make a record? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, well, I'd like to make that record, and I'd like to be a part of this, and I'd like to do the bass now and then find a bass player and switch over to guitar and actually do this for real. And that's basically what we did. We just went from there. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man. So, and the band name, Pulchra Morte, how did you guys come up with that? Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, we were, as you're kind of tossing around what you're trying to accomplish with a project and, a band and a feeling you're trying to get across, that first impression is kind of everything. So we were trying to come up with a name that really, said what we were trying to do right there in black and white. And, we were trying to make beautiful music and, really sing about the darker aspects of death, and really on the death metal side of things. So Beautiful Death was kind of the name, and we started playing around with that and just translated it to Latin, and it made sense. So there you go, Pulchra Morte.
Fuck yeah, man. Speaking of some of your influences, man, like what got you, take us back to the beginning. Like, what got you into playing music at the start?
Well, I mean, my dad played, so some of my earliest memories are watching him play, but what really kicked it into overdrive for me was Kiss. I mean, like, I liked all kinds of stuff as young as I can remember, but it's the 70s. I saw Kiss on my relative's wall, and I was like, holy, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't want to listen to that. Like, I want to be that, and then I was lucky, and I got, I had Kiss, and I had, I got into a lot of different kind of music when I was a kid. I liked Queen, like I liked Kiss, and a few different things. And then for me, I mean, I played guitar, from the time I was a little kid, but the real push came when I got into punk. And you know, probably like Black Flag and MDC, Septic Death, those bands. It was just kind of like the revelation, like, okay, like I can do that. Like I'm not Eddie Van Halen at 10 years old, you know, like I'm not that good, but I can do that. You know, I can play these chords and I can make a sound and I can contribute to this. So I mean, really for me, like I was into metal, like as a young kid, you know, I mean, like pre-teenage years, super into it. Dio, Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really couldn't play that well because I was a kid, you know, I was just learning. Punk rock for me was the gateway where it's like, okay, I can do this, I can participate, and I can play, you know, and that was it for me. I know Clay's is a little bit different, but that's where I came from.
Yeah, me. I mean, I just I grew up in a small town, so you know, my musical influences when I was very young was my older brothers and sisters, and you know, they were listening to things like the Beatles and Boston, and it was all just sort of whatever background music. I didn't really, you know, understand what music was at that age. But as I got older, I remember them playing Frank Zappa, you know, Apostrophe, Overnight Sensation. And I was like, wow, what is this? This is super interesting. So that's when I think I really kind of knew that music was a thing. And then I moved to St. Louis when I was still relatively young, and immediately went to a record store and, you know, found things like Motley Crue and Armored Saint and Wasp and, you know, Metallica, Iron Maiden. And I was like, oh shit, this is great. This is fantastic. But the time where I really, you know, started kind of playing drums was when I heard Whiplash's Nailed to the Cross and Last Man Alive, and I was like, oh, okay, I definitely want to do this. That's super aggressive, super angry. That sounds like something that I can do on drums. So that's kind of where I started going down the road of much darker and more aggressive metal.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. You know, I remember being a kid and sitting there trying to play guitar and listening to bands like Iron Maiden and Metallica and Van Halen and all that shit, and it seemed like it was almost impossible to play that fucking good, you know, just
right.
Especially right out of the gates, you know. It's like, fuck, man, how the fuck do you get that good? And but then when I heard some like shit like fucking Obituary and I don't know, stuff like that was a little bit slower, but it was heavy, you know, and I was like, okay, man, I can do that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I said this in a lot of interviews. As far as death metal went, our old friend's band Ex Mortis, like when I heard that, for whatever reason, that, you know, 'cause, I mean, I already had Morbid Angel. I've been listening to the demos of that for years, and that was amazing. But at first, you know, at like 15, it still seemed a little bit out of my reach. But for whatever reason, like Ex Mortis's Immortality's End, I was like, wow, like not only is this fucking great, like I understand this. Like I can, you know, I can jump in there and I can do that, you know, and so I know exactly what you mean. Like sometimes I think it's the spark where you realize like, okay, like it's possible, like I can do this. It's within my grasp. That's really all you need to launch, you know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I mean, sometimes I think that's all it takes, you know, and then once you get started on that, then it just takes you down a whole nother path, and then you're just like, you know.
Yeah, you just really don't know when you hear it. You're like, oh, killer, I'll just pick up a guitar, or I'll pick up some drumsticks, I can do that. And then you get to sit down with it, and you're like, oh, shit, this is a whole thing. yeah, man. Like I remember getting a tab book for Steve Vai, one of his fucking Passion and Warfare, man, and sitting there trying I actually thought that I was gonna fucking just pick that up and like learn it right there. You know, just read the tabs, man. It's, you know, how hard can it be? This dude that I worked with at the movie theater in Tampa gave guitar lessons, and it's a funny story. He got called by Jennifer Capriati, who was a famous tennis player at the time, like a younger teenage tennis star, And she's like, yeah, can you give me guitar lessons? He's like, yeah, sure. So he takes his guitar over there, and she's like, all right, so what do we got, an hour? Cool, that should be plenty of time. I want to play Stairway to Heaven when we're out of here. It's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem.
Right.
All right, so looking at your at the promo, man, I see there's a bunch of fucking guest musicians on this record too. You got Jay Fernandez from Brutality, guest vocals from Heather and backing vocals from fucking 1349, Immolation, Exhumed, Black Tusk, Mondo Generator, and more. Can you tell us about that?
Well, Heather, first of all, I'll lay that out. Heather has been our friend and sang with us all the way back in the Eulogy days. So she's just someone that I know that has a lot of great ideas and is really, really talented. And I just, we just like to have different textures. I always loved the female vocals on a lot of different death metal back in the day. And it's just, even our band back at that actual time utilized it. So Heather's just an ally and an extremely valuable one. And then Fernandez, and I played in Brutality like as a live guitarist for him because they're all old buddies of mine. Jay and I have known each other since Jay also played in Eulogy way back in the day, and I think Jay's just a fantastic musician. And it's when you're making music with your friends, just to be real clear about it, you're painting with like a different brush, and at the end of the day, it kind of is really about just what you accomplish and how you feel about what you accomplish. And so including our friends in that is kind of a big deal. Our buddy Andrew Garrity, who played with me in Wolfhammer and has worked on tours with me for years doing merch, driving, he's a tour manager. Andrew sings a bunch of backing vocals on it as well. We've got Jason Avery, who was the vocalist of Eulogy, in there. And then because of the pandemic, we just reached out. There was an open call to anyone that wanted to sing with us. And it's ultimately about 100 voices in there, and a lot of different voices, a lot of different people, Wow,
that's really cool, man. And that is,
we were just really trying to, since you can't go to shows, it seemed like a good idea to really kind of replicate as best we can on a record the feeling of just standing next to somebody you may not know, have nothing in common with, and just kind of yell in unison and, trying to put forth the same energy. So it seemed like a really cool idea, and I think it came across pretty well thanks to some technical know-how from Mr. Jarrett.
Yeah, there was no screening process at all. It was just kind of like anybody. You don't even have to be in a band. Like, you can yell in your cell phone. Like, it was an open invitation. Like, anyone that wants to sing, like, we want you to get on here and be a part of this. In the song, The Serpent's Choir, that we did it on, Adam could probably explain it a little bit better, but my understanding is that, it's about the power of the written word when a lot of voices get behind it. Some of it were friends that we reached out to. I've worked with 1349 for 11 years, actually. I've been with those guys for a long time, and they're my very, very, very close friends. They're like my brothers, and so naturally they were going to be there, and there are a lot of other people we've toured with, people I've made records with that I reached out to and said, hey, do me a favor, jump on and yell. There are other people that just showed up, and overall, I just... I don't know that anything like that's ever been really tried, and it was difficult. For me, technically, it definitely wasn't easy. But at the end of the day, I feel really cool about it because it's a moment in time where a lot of people that are involved in metal or fans of metal or performers got together and, let it have it. And I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Earlier in the show, I was talking about looking back on this year, and with everything, it's obviously things are really fucked up this year, and a lot of fucked up shit has happened. But as far as music is concerned, like, there's been a lot of really good releases and a lot of creativity coming out, but there has been a lot of collaborations with just different people working together, through online fucking shit, you know, and just doing all these different, you know, whether it's doing these covers or they're doing all these little quarantine videos and stuff. Like it's actually pretty cool to see, you know, just seeing all these people working together, because I mean, it's just like, what else can you do, you know? Like you gotta come together somehow, you know.
Well, it's interesting,
Yeah.
because in a lot of ways, I think that if you only were to, like, maybe for instance, like, look at the discussion thread of any post on social media, I mean, it looks like everyone fucking hates each other, and that's not true at all. You know, I mean, I'm a touring front of house engineer and, you know, tour manager, and I work for a lot of bands, and I know for a fact that, like, bands and everybody, you know, kind of knows each other. Everybody gets along. Like, metal really is a community.
Mhm.
There's some bullshit in it. There's some circle jerking fucking nonsense gatekeeper, like, fuck off idiots out there. But most of the people that are actually doing metal, like the crews, the bands, this, that, and the other, it really is a community. So it's excellent, but it's not super surprising to see people jamming together. You know, like, there are some covers I've seen where it's like people that I know, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Of course you guys are going to do that. So it's cool, and it's also cool to remember that, you know, like, we, all of us that play metal or whatever, you know, you kind of have to remember that within our own world, we're a microcosm, like, to the public at large. That has nothing to do with what we do. We're actually a relatively small group, and I think the more things that we do together, and, like, kind of the more that we support each other or collaborate or everything, like, the better for music and for metal.
Yeah.
Not only as a music, but as a community, it's gonna be.
Yeah, totally, man. Now, as far as the sound of this record, man, it's got a really, really good mix, and the sound just fucking, I mean, it's, I don't know, I could go on all day about how good it sounds, but I was looking here, and it says that it was mastered by the same people that did Faith No More, Halford, and Sepultura, too. Can you tell us about that?
Go for it, Clay.
Yeah, I mean, when you're sitting on something that you've created like this, that you've put 2 years of work into, and you're happy with how it sounds, it's no small decision to figure out, you know, who can help contribute and push it just, you know, that little bit further with the master. So, you know, we had been talking about several different folks, you know, and everybody's, as you pointed out, producing music right now. So a lot of these guys have a pretty full schedule. So it was really just a matter of trying to work out, you know, who's going to be best for the budget we have that has openings and makes sense for the sound we're trying to go for. And, you know, it's really not that kind of gnarly, you know, Swedish sound or anything like that that's super death metal-y. We wanted to sound more warm, you know, more sort of analog. I mean, we recorded a good deal of this on tape, you know, so we wanted to preserve that sound, and Maor was a great choice. He was great to work with. We ran a couple passes, and he really knocked it out, I think.
Yeah, I've known Maor for, I feel like it's been like since 2008, 2009. Like, I know his work. Like, we've crossed paths before. Like, I was front of house for Cynic. He mastered Cynic. You know, he did Goat Whore for me a few years ago when I did Vengeful Ascension. And so I just knew that his work would be quality, and he's an easy guy to work with. He's really nice, and he's really talented, you know, so it seemed like a proper choice. It's funny because I know a lot of different guys that are mastering engineers, myself included, and I consider them my peers, and I consider them to be really good. You know, I mean, I tend to hang out with guys that are good engineers just because we probably have more to talk about. We have more in common with, you know. But yeah, Maor's done some quality work, and he's a cool dude, and he's always super excited to work on things, and he just seemed like the right fit, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of sounds, man, for all the gearheads out there listening, can you give us like a rundown of some of the rigs that you guys are using in there to make these sounds?
Well, so our live rigs, we use Emperor cabs, and I have we have two full stacks of them loaded with Weber Grey Wolves. Jeff's using a block letter 5150. I'm using a 97 dual rec, and we have a lot of pedals. And big thing that's a part of our sounds, we got our buddy Mike that is out in Colorado making pedals called Foul Sounds. And I've known Mike. He comes from Virginia, where I'm from, and he came to a show a couple years back and brought me some of his stuff to check out. And I found that I really liked his overdrives and distortions a whole lot. He just made a cool echo, but I haven't heard it yet. And there's a thing that we're doing with the flannel, the red flannel and green flannel overlord pedals that kind of throttle the inputs of our amps a little bit. But so that's our live rig. It's like recording it wise, it was pretty similar. I used a couple different amps. I used guitar-wise, I used my ESP EC1000 or LTD EC1000 with Seymour Duncan's in it. And that was like the guitar that we did all the rhythms with. Jeff and I kind of like threw the guitar back and forth. And Clay can tell you about the drums because that's him. I don't know nothing about it. Clay? I don't know.
I was talking to mute. Sorry. I just said, I don't know, man. I just pick up a couple pieces of wood and bash around on some shit. Nobody cares. No, I played Pearl drums. So I've got a Music City custom kit that I just got last year, actually, before we went on tour with 1349. And this was the first album that I've used it on. All the other albums I've been on the rest of my life have been the same Pearl kit that I got in 1988. So this is really my first brand new drum set that I purchased myself. It's pretty funny after all these years. But yeah, so I got that. That's killer. It sounds really great under the mic. Pearl brass reference snare. That's loud as fuck. And then speaking of loud, all Peisty cymbals all the way around that I just bought. Peisty Rudes, actually. And, that's a thing that I've always kind of wanted to have a full setup of. I used some in the Eulogy days, but I always wanted a full setup. It's something like going back to Stuart Copeland and Dave Lombardo that used Rudes. Dave still does. But, they're just really, they cut through everything and they're loud as fuck. So it's a little difficult to control in the studio, but they're great for live. So anyway, that's what I do.
They're my recording preference. I like them probably out of the gate better than most things, actually. I mean, I completely back it, even though they are unruly as fuck. It's a little tricky to deal with them, but I like them a lot myself.
Yeah, for anybody that gives a shit anymore, we did a walkthrough video when we had it under the mics when we were recording this record. Actually, that's on our Facebook page at Pulchra Morte.
Oh, sick! Cool, man. Got some questions for you coming in from the listeners. Titan wants to know, where do you see yourselves playing live when COVID is finally defeated?
I mean, anywhere and everywhere. Like I'm ready to get in the van now. I'm going nuts. I'm ready to play. I'll play your fucking living room, bro.
Hell yeah. Another question is, how many instruments can you play?
Oh, me? Gosh, I mean, I play bass, play guitars. I can play enough keys to say I can't play keys, but I can get it done. I can play some wind instruments, but I don't play them much at all or fuck with them. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, nothing with strings. I guess technically piano is a percussion instrument, so I took like 4 years of piano lessons as a kid, and I can still annoy everybody with the theme to Halloween or The Exorcist or Charlie Brown, but I'm not proficient.
And
mostly drums.
Don't let him near a piano because it will totally happen. But I can write for just about anything though. Like if I'm sitting down like in scoring, which nowadays is a computer or a sequencer. Like I can write and think for most of it, but I mean, my focus is mostly stringed instruments.
Oh yeah. Another question, Lady Red wants to know, have you ever played in Canada or do you want to?
Well, I would absolutely like to play in Canada. I've been to Canada many times touring. I mean, everywhere from, Vancouver, Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto, Kamloops, Regina, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon. I mean, all over the place. I love it up there, and I would absolutely like to play up there.
Shit, I'd like to move there.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
What's another question? What's one place that you love playing at? What's your favorite place to play at?
Anywhere that there's a room full of people that are interested in jamming out to some music. I don't care if it's in, a smaller town like Johnson City, Tennessee, or whether it's in the middle of Manhattan at Irving Plaza. Like, anywhere that there are people that want to jam out and listen to some music and get wild, I'm all about it. It doesn't matter. Anywhere that there's people that care about music, that's where I want to play.
Fuck yeah, man. Another question. Vicky wants to know, what do you prefer, bubble baths or showers?
That's you, Clay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Can't remember the last time I took a bubble bath. But, I'd say probably with company, you'd want to do a bubble bath. The shower's sort of a solitary thing.
Yeah, I mean, I typically don't have time to stop long enough to take a bath, so I'm probably good jumping in the shower. But I mean, I guess if I don't know, showers got to work sometimes. I just don't have the time.
Another question. Bad Wizard wants to know, what are you guys listening to right now? Like on your music devices, however you listen to music.
Man, I've been listening to all kinds of shit this year. As you pointed out, it's kind of been a wild year. Probably mostly lately, since it came out, I've been listening to that Macabre. Boren and Der Club of Gore put out a great album earlier this year. But, I mostly listen to older shit, too. Although I do like that Waste of Space Orchestra record. That was a cool record.
I've been kind of like looking back at Crack the Sky, listening to that. I listen to a lot of like weird like 80s new wave music. I like Sisters of Mercy and Christian Death and stuff like that. Just for the sheer like insanity of it, Conquering Dystopia is pretty interesting. Just because it's just like, wow, fuck. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, I listen to Neurosis. I like that a lot. I listen to like Through Silver and Blood and Enemy of the Sun are two of my favorite records. So I listen to that a lot still. And I spent most of the summer not wanting to listen to fucking anything because I was in the studio making this record the whole time. So when I was done, I didn't want to hear anything. I didn't even want anybody to talk to me. Like, don't even talk. Like, leave me alone.
Man, speaking of Crack the Sky, did you see Mastodon covering Alice in Chains again the other day?
No, but I'm sure it's fantastic.
Holy shit. Yeah, dude, they did a great job, man.
Yeah, these guys are rad.
Hell yeah. Another question. Later Ed wants to know, do you have any crazy road stories to tell?
That you still can't be prosecuted for, Jarrett.
What? That's not true. I was thinking, you know what I was thinking about today? One time I was on tour and some sound guy probably had only ever like run his mouth on the internet, so he didn't understand the other part of it when I threw him across the stage onto a pair of floor wedges. And then he learned that being a fucking asshole is the wrong thing to do. But no, I mean that did happen. But there's a lot because I've been on the road for a long time, like professionally. Well, that wasn't very professional, but professionally.
Wait! Explain that, man. You threw a guy off the stage?
No, I fucking threw a house guy across the stage onto a pair of floor wedges for being drunk and screaming at the drummer of the band I was working for.
You know, it happens. Sometimes you got to fucking correct people. I mean, shit, last year when we toured with 1349 and Cloak and Uada, the fucking monitors caught on fire during Cloak, so shit happens.
Fuck, man. The fucking monitor's catching on fire. What did they do? Did they stop playing, or did they just blow them out with fucking extinguishers?
No, it just added to the smoke our bros use in that band.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's like, God, their smoke smells weird tonight.
Yeah, I can imagine everybody's probably just like, fuck yeah, man, the fucking amps are on fire, dude.
Yeah, they're smoking.
Another question, sausages or burgers with or without chili sauce?
Shit.
I think anything's just a valid vehicle for chili sauce. But yeah, I'm more of a burger person than the tubed meat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with burgers, but should you end up with a hot dog or sausage, I think that Texas Pete chili sauce specifically is really it's kind of a necessity.
Oh yeah, man. Another question, who would you guys most like to appear on stage with?
Man, Ripping Corpse.
Yeah, Ripping Corpse. Get back together and play.
Yeah.
Or Entombed, the clandestine American tour lineup would be fantastic. Original lineup Accused would be great. Currently,
Voivod.
Voivod. My guys in 1349.
Obviously,
the Goat dudes. My friends, people that
Hell yeah, man. Another question, most favorite singer or band of all time?
Wow. Man, there's so many good ones. Just thinking about singers, that is a very difficult question. I mean, there's guys that are just sort of staples, and immediately who they are. Scott Ruth from Ripping Corpse is one. Martin Van Drunen, who's Pestilence and Bolt Thrower and Asphyx, etc. His voice is, just super powerful and unique. Nick Holmes, obviously, I think is fantastic. And then, you go back in the day and there's just those landmark dudes like Stace Sheepdog McLaren from Razor and even Don Doty on those first couple Dark Angel records. I mean, some sick vocalists out there.
I couldn't even begin to pick one. I mean, I like so much music. I think so many people are great. Old people that are gigantic, people that I mean, currently, I Raven, I think, is great. I think Ben from Goat Horse, like one of the best. I think Adam that sings for us is one of the best. I mean, Adam and I didn't always play in a band. I mean, Adam was in Wolfhammer for years, and I was a friend and a fan, and I thought that he was a fantastic front man. I thought he was a great, just sounding vocalist. I just have so many people out there, like currently, past, present, that I admire and just, just like I hear him sing or watch him do a show, and I just smile and shake my head, and I'm like, fuck yeah, that dude's killing it right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Raven is just always amazing to watch live, and as you said, Ben, I mean, yeah, there's just so many. That's a ridiculous question.
Hell yeah, man. Another question, what do you prefer, female mud fight or figure skating?
Where do you even watch female mud fights anymore? I mean, there's no bars anymore. Like, you got to really look for that. That's tough.
I mean, I've only ever seen like a mud fight on TV. I think I saw a Jello wrestling thing one time, like a long time ago. I only really like figure skating if clubs and broken ankles and knees are involved.
Yeah, I watch skating in the Olympics, but you're always just kind of looking for the fall. I mean, for female mud wrestling, I'll just watch Stripes. I think everything I know about female mud wrestling came from Stripes.
I mean, but as far as skating goes on ice specifically, I mean, I probably laugh harder at Slapshot, to be honest with you.
Oh, I mean, come on. If we're talking about hockey, I live for hockey. I live in St. Louis. I mean, what the fuck? So, yeah, I've been a hockey fan for ages. We were in Tampa, active in Eulogy, lived through the era when the Lightning started. So I'm all about the hockey. And, of course, I mean, fucking Slapshot, Goon, Chernobyl motherfuckers.
2 rules, man.
Speaking of that, like, what kind of shit do you guys do in your downtime when you're not doing music?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I watch a lot of fucking movies. I mean, I watch a lot of all kinds of movies, but I'm a huge horror fan. I collect screen print posters and vinyl, and I read a lot, and, you know, work.
Yeah, I mean, I screen print T-shirts and posters and stuff. I've got, you know, kind of a cool setup at my house, and I mean, I work in the studio a lot, so I'm, you know, working on records and recording records and mixing records and mastering records pretty much constantly. So it's really, I mean, music in general is kind of constant with me because it's my job and as well as my band, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Jarrett and free time are 2 opposing statements there. He has none. He is always working. It's always entertaining to get a call from Jarrett and find out what the hell he's doing. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, he did an interview while he was getting tattooed. I mean, the dude just has no time.
Hell yeah, dude. Speaking of, well, as far as music is concerned, man, what's your favorite platforms to listen to music on? Like vinyl, CDs, tapes, fucking Spotify? Like what do you, how do you do it?
I like my records a lot, but I also really enjoy being able to buy high resolution versions of music. Like, you know, you can go to like a site like Qbuzz or whatever, and you can buy the full res, you know, wave of a specific song, and I like that. I like hearing it probably in what I imagine was the form it was delivered in. You know, I don't mind the streaming stuff, you know, I mean, that's fine, but if I'm gonna like really listen or enjoy something or try and learn from something I'm listening to, I want it to be very high quality, and that's usually what's happening like when I'm at work. Like if I'm listening to something there, if I'm at home, I'm definitely just playing my records.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got, like I said, a huge vinyl collection that I listen to. I mean, I also, though, have several terabytes of music. I just keep my own so that I can load up my phone with whatever. And I mean, anything I've ever had, and the thousands of CDs and vinyl that I've got, I've ripped. So I just have a huge, you know, personal collection that I farm from, just because I don't participate on any of the streaming sites really. I just don't like the sound, generally speaking, and it's just tinny, you know. It sounds not real to me. It's not any grand philosophical statement that I don't really listen to it, but I do if it's like background noise or we're just hanging out, you know, doing something else, listening to music. We'll put on some nice chill tunes from whatever streaming service.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I have to listen to a lot of MP3s because of my job here, but as far as like in my own personal time, man, I love fucking listening to records, dude. And but it's always fucking it always amazes me how different records sound from each other. Like you can listen to I don't know, like sometimes I'll get a newer record and then I'll listen to like an older record, you know, like some old fucking original pressing of like Led Zeppelin or Sabbath or something.
Right.
And the sound quality is so much fucking better sometimes than some of the newer stuff. And, you know, I wonder, like, what the fuck did they do differently? You know, like how, I guess it was because they were transferring it straight from fucking tape to fucking vinyl, or they're recording it right to the vinyl. I don't know how that works, but
It's just a very different world. I mean, you we're talking about a time where people, you know, at times went into the studio for a month and wrote it. and played together, and the communication between musicians, like playing in a live space, and then you take into consideration the equipment that they're using. You got like, you look at like Sound City, you've got what's now like $1 million console, like that Neve that they pulled out of there, and then they're recording the tape, and there weren't really a lot of shortcuts back then. I think that the best time for produced music probably came right before digital at the early 90s, like when people really had learned how to use analog to the fullest. So that's like the era of like Dirt or like the Soundgarden records. Most of the death metal was done then. And I think things are different now. I don't think that bands operate as much as a unit. I think that a lot of times, people do a lot more work over the internet or whatever, and there's a certain connection that's not there. There's if you're in a band and you go into the rehearsal space like we used to do, 5 nights a week, 5 or 6 hours a night, you tune in your sound, you get locked into each other. There's like some groove and some feeling going on, but it's a very well-oiled machine. I just think things are a lot more mechanical now.
Yeah, and really that's one of the reasons that we thought it was important to track at least the drums fully to tape in a fully analog studio. And it's a different thing where, I don't know, there's a tactile portion of this. That's why I like listening to vinyl. It's part of the art. That's why I collect screen printed posters versus just regular printed posters. There's something about that other, it's somebody else's art that is transferring your music. There's a true skill and art to creating a vinyl record properly. And there's something about that in the whole process, everybody's adding their little piece that it just doesn't really transfer the same way when you talk about digital. Plus, I mean, especially as Jared pointed out, in the last 15 or 20 years, it's really gone to sort of that super high compression, that loudness wars that everybody's going for, and it just creates a totally different feel. It's very aggressive and abrasive, and that can be helpful to certain music, but it's a totally different world.
Oh yeah, man. All right, well, for people out there listening, where can they go to find out more information about you guys?
Well, there's pulchramorte.com. There's Facebook /Pulchra Morte, and Instagram we're Pulchra Morte Metal. On Twitter we're Pulchra Morte 666. Pulchramorte.bandcamp.com. We've got a whole bunch of different shirts and patches, pins. There's still a couple copies of the special edition vinyl record left, and with that we're putting in like a slip mat and patches and stickers and the screen printed cover. It's really cool. And then of course Transcending Records and eu.transcendingrecords.com for our European friends, and elsewhere in the world shipping will be a lot cheaper. He's still got some copies, so that's kind of everywhere we are online.
Hell yeah. All right, well, I'm about out of questions for you guys. Is there anything else you want to add, let your fans know?
Just push the button, check it out. We appreciate every single person that does. It's naturally, we wrote it and we recorded it for ourselves. We want everybody else to take part in it too. It's tricky these days because there's so much information flying at you. So I think you have to stop and appreciate everybody that checks out what you're doing, the same way you would if you appreciated someone that looked at a photograph you took or anything else. So yeah, for everybody that participates and supports us, and yourself included, thanks a lot. Thanks for talking to us. Thanks for checking out what we're doing. It's we really enjoy doing it. Like it's a very fulfilling thing for us, and so thanks to everybody that's participating. It means a lot.
Hell yeah, dudes. Well, before I let you go, I got to get you to make us a station tag. All right.
All right.
All right, whenever you're ready, say something like, "This is Pulchra Morte, and you're listening to Metal Devastation Radio."
All right, Clay, you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, go. This is Pulchra Morte,
and you're listening to Metal Devastation Radio. Radio.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for taking the time to talk to us, man. I really appreciate it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blast some more fucking music from you guys so these motherfuckers can go crazy, all right?
Check it out.
All
Killer.
right.
Thanks, man.
All right,
Thanks
man.
a lot.
We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yep.
There you have it, folks. Pulchra Morte live on the Zach Moonshine Show with Metal Devastation motherfucking radio. Like I said earlier, put your speakers in your fucking windows, put them in your front lawns, put them wherever the fuck you can. Make your neighbors fucking hate you, man. If you don't see U-Haul trucks everywhere tomorrow, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you, but you're not playing it